Peter Richardson, we are on the Isle of Wight.
Yes, we're still on the Isle of Wight. We've had a big festival since we last spoke. It's not a very big island, but it's a historical island at least from that viewpoint in the music world, the Isle of Wight Festival.
I need you to tell our listeners who is Peter Richardson. You're a classical guitarist and you play difficult pieces of music. Chopin, I know, is not anyone's cup of tea. You really have to study very hard. Who are you?
Well, I'm still trying to find that out, actually. But one thing I think I've discovered that music has controlled my life since I was very young. But, always trying to get into music through the back door, not having the opportunity through the front door. And it's brought me into contact with a lot of people and my endeavors to try and break through and succeed in my music. And a lot of that happened since I moved to South Africa in 1975. That gave me a platform to build on and learn upon.
Peter, you have been in South Africa for quite a while, and there's a little place called Cape Town that stole your heart.
Well, yes. I mean, it's not surprising, is it really? When I arrived to South Africa in 1975, I wasn't intending to move there. I came on holiday, but I thought, well, no, this is a new world for me. I was much younger then, and I thought, I want to stay here. I want to build my life here. So I didn't return back on my return ticket, and I eventually stayed on there. I was 23 years in South Africa before I made a journey back to my homeland. Yes, immediately I was taken, not just because of the weather and the beautiful part of South Africa, particularly the Cape, but more importantly, the people to me were the magic of the Cape, and the warmth of the people, the vibrance of them, the smiles on their faces, despite the times they were living through, because we know how the regime was in those days. But I was always drawn to the people, and it was a very stimulating place for me to create my music. Learning the classical guitar, I got into writing songs, not through intention, but it just seemed to evolve. But when I did start writing my songs, I do feel so much of the inspiration came from the people and the environment that I was living in.
We are specifically going to talk about a certain song by the name of In a Dream, and you had Zayn Adams performing it. How did it come about?
I'd got to know through living in the Marina de Gama, Ken Higgins, who was a well-known South African pianist, playing on Springbok Radio, having a Sunday lunch with Higgins show. Brilliant pianist. And recording artist, and he took a liking to the fact that I was a musician, and I let him listen to this song I'd written, because I believed in this song, and he listened to it. He said he'd like to record it. He had a recording studio. He says, you know who ought to sing this? Zayn Adams. Ken had a lot of dealings with Zayn in the recording industry. I was introduced to Zayn. I'd heard about Zayn.
How did you meet him?
Well, I first phoned him up and could I come along? So I did. I went along there. I waited for him in the lobby there, his sitting room. I'm thinking back now, 30 years, and eventually he appeared, serene, very well disposed, and it was in the morning, and he sat down and we had a chat, and I gave him a copy of the song on cassette and of the lyrics, and he said to me, well, he will listen to it and let me know. I must come back the next day. So I did that. And so when I came back the next day, he says, yes, he'd very much like to sing on this. This was only hiring Zayn to put his voice on in the recording session, which is what he used to do at times, a session musician. And he put his voice on. He said to me, he and his son, Daniel, has subsequently told me he would never sing a song he didn't have some meaning in it and believe in the lyrics. The lyrics to him were more important sometimes than the melody. And so to me, it was a great honor, giving thumbs up to accept the recording. And so it was, we went down to the studio and then they said to me, leave this with us, Peter, and come back tomorrow. Another comeback tomorrow.
That is a very Cape Townian thing to experience.
Needless to say, I was very excited. My song's been recorded with Ken Higgins, brilliant pianist, and his two sons, Tony and Greg, accomplished musicians, and of course the great Zayn Adam. I wish I'd had more time to be with Zayn and get to know him. Obviously I went back the next day and then eventually I was given a copy of the tape. I couldn't believe what they managed to do with my song. I went up to thank him and he says, Peter, I'd like to use your song in my shows if I can. And that to me was a great accolade. It didn't happen. For some reason, he had to perform a different type of music. And then he went on some venture, perhaps touring. But before he left, last I remember of saying, because I moved on after that, was he said to me, keep writing. I'd like you to be one of my songwriters, because every now and then he's got a handful of people who writes for him. So that to me gave me a great boost. And it left me with a demo tape. Certain things happened in my life which made me have to move on, took me in a different direction. But my life took over a different course, and it was lying in a particular drawer of tapes.
Luckily for us, you got to re-record it.
Yes, we pick up the story perhaps many years later. We have to. And I'd moved to England to come home, visit my family. 1998, that was. I'm still here. Unfortunately, my heart is still back in the Cape, though. It never leaves you. I went into the garage where I put all my spare boxes, and I saw these tapes lying about. And I said to myself, oh, that tape, I've got to do something with it. It's such a lovely song. And it's Zayn. At that time, I hadn't realized the tragedy of Zayn's loss, because I've been apart from what's happening in South Africa. And I'd heard that he passed away. And I said, well, that's it. I'm not having that tape lie around. I want the world to know about this song, because no one's heard him sing it, and it's part of his legacy. And that took me on a little voyage to try and find out who to contact, who was Zayn's manager back then, and of course a quest to find contact for his family. Eventually discovered Paddy Lee Thorpe. He was the producer, manager and record label for Zayn Adams and most of his recording hits. And I contacted him, and Paddy said to me, he says, well, it's not up to industry standard, the tape. I respected Paddy and his professional viewpoint, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? This is why I talk about the Isle of Wight Festival, because in 1968, 69, where it produced some of the top musicians that we know of in the pop world, it left behind a legacy of musicians on the island and their families. And I discovered a recording studio, Chell Abbey Studios, that had the top recording equipment in the southeast of England, and the producer, David Granshaw, on the island. So I went to visit him, and I said, I want to see if you can remaster that. Mm-hmm. Because it seemed impossible, because it was never recorded in stems. And he did. And he made an amazing remastering of that, bringing Zayn's voice out most beautifully. And of course, Ken Higgins on the keyboards. When Paddy heard that, he said, well, that's it. Let the games begin. And so it was. Then, of course, one more hurdle was to find out who Zayn's contact his family, his dear wife, Yadima. And I did, and I sent her a little message expressing my desire to get this out so the world can hear it. Daniel, who's dealing with his father's legacy, sent me a lovely message back saying that we would love you to bring this forward and let the world know about this song, which beautifully extends for us the memories of my father and his legacy. So that was it, and it took a while to get this thing organized, and on the 20th of August this year the song was released, and it's there on many digital streaming platforms.
In a dream, flying high, somewhere I can be for a moment, just thinking of you. You took all my life from its darkest hour, made a new beginning, another day. You're part of my life. Let me feel your power. I know just how to make it work, know how to make it stay. In a dream we could live, we could share each moment. If I call, you'll be there in a dream. In a dream we can feel, we can understand love, every wish and care that we share will come true in a dream. in a dream.